Calaroga Shark Media.
Hello, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. The Saturday Night movie has been in limited release until now. Today it goes into wide release. The film tells the tale of the 90 minutes leading up to the very first episode of Saturday Night Live, then titled NBC's Saturday Night. Yeah, there was a Howard Cosell show called Saturday Night Live. This happened October 11th, 1975. Young producer Lorne Michaels races against the clock to put together a live show. Director and co-writer Jason Reitman interviewed lots of past and present SNL staffers and researched written accounts of the sketch show's opening night. Of course, it's a movie, so we had to take some dramatic license. Entertainment Weekly looked at the true stories. Okay, some spoilers here, but the show's been around for almost 50 years, so you had a minute. But if you don't want me to ruin the movie, I don't know, skip ahead 5 minutes maybe, because I'm going to tell you a couple stories here. Spoilers are coming. Spoiler number 1. Did Milton Berle really flash Chevy Chase? EW says there's no record that Milton Berle was lurking around SNL on premiere night or that he flashed Chevy. However, it was widely rumored that Uncle Milty had, big charisma and liked to show it off. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. In the SNL oral history book Live from New York, writer Alan Zweibel said he was flashed in Berle's dressing room when Milton hosted in 1979. Chevy had left the show by then. Spoiler number 2. Was Lorne Michaels the original host of Weekend Update before turning it over to Chevy? EW tells us in lesser-known SNL lore, Michaels has said he was actually planning to anchor an early iteration of Weekend Update, but he didn't hand it over to Chase minutes before the show. It happened before Chase was even on the cast. Michaels told Deadline in 2014, I'd done the equivalent of Weekend Update in Canada, but as we got closer to the air show, I began to realize that I didn't think I could be the person who cut other people's pieces and left my own in. Spoiler number 3. Did Garrett Morris sing a song about killing whiteys at Soundcheck? EW tells us, although there are no stories about Garrett Morris singing at the show's first soundcheck, he did perform the song for the movie on SNL in the first season. Episode 11 featured this song. Next spoiler, was Johnny Carson openly hostile to SNL? EW tells us, contrary to the film's portrayal of Carson rooting for the show's demise, SNL was created as a solution to the host insisting NBC stop airing reruns of The Tonight Show on weekends so he could cut his talk show down from 4 days a week to 3 days a week and air repeats on the remaining weeknights. Per the book Live from New York, Carson was skeptical of the show and later openly appalled by some of its more outrageous gags, but did not make a threatening phone call to Lorne Michaels. Lorne regularly invited Carson a guest host, but Johnny never appeared. Next spoiler, was NBC prepared to air a Tonight Show rerun in case SNL wasn't ready? EW tells us, actually, it was Lorne who wanted a backup plan, but not of The Tonight Show. Associate producer Craig Kellum remembered in Live from New York, we almost didn't get on the air because dress rehearsal went so poorly. I remember Lorne seriously asking the network people or having me ask them to have a movie ready to go just in case, and I don't think he was kidding. Next spoiler, did John Belushi refuse to sign his contract until moments before the show went live? EW tells us Belushi was indeed without a contract until moments before starring in the cold open. Apparently, John signed it 5 minutes before air. That's wonderful. All right, let me do one more. Did Chevy and Belushi get into a physical fight backstage? EW says, similar to the film, Chase was involved in a fistfight, but not with Belushi. It actually involved Bill Murray. Bill Murray said in the Live from New York book, I got into a fight with Chevy the night he came back to host in 1978. Bill didn't join SNL until season 2. It was almost like I was goaded into it, I think everybody was hoping for it. I did sense that. I think they resented Chevy for leaving, for one thing. They resented him for taking a big piece of the success and leaving it and making his own career go. Everybody else was from the improv world where you didn't make it about you. You were an ensemble, you were a company. So when he left, there was resentment about that. It was a shock. Chase put most of the blame on Belushi. In the same book, Chase said, in a sense, John caused that fight with Billy because we both ended up hitting John by mistake. Billy came after me and tried to throw me off a little bit just before I was going on air. Ultimately, Billy's still Billy and I'm still me, but it didn't faze me for the show. I was upset, but I noticed John when I was going into Billy's dressing room, and John was like the Cheshire Cat, sitting there like mission accomplished. Brian Regan used to have a bit of a dumb guy persona in his stand-up and said, for a long time, I did feeling inferior fantasies on stage. Like you say, the dumb guy, Regan told the Burlington Free Press. It was comedy from a perspective of a person who doesn't want to put his foot in his mouth or feel inadequate in certain social situations. My brain is bigger than that dumb guy persona. I enjoy thinking about a lot of different things. It's fun to share a comedic point of view that's more observational in nature than biographical, but I still do a little bit of everything. I like ancient civilizations, and I make a joke about Stonehenge, and I have jokes about space exploration, things that I think might surprise people that are familiar with my old work. I still think it's very funny stuff. He's been acting a little bit. He says, things are good. That doesn't mean at some point I won't want to get off the ride. I've been thrilled to be a stand-up comedian for my whole adult life. It'd be nice to experiment with some other ways of being creative. He's working on an idea for a talk show where he would be on stage but would produce behind the scenes. He calls it a talk show with a twist. He's also working on a Christmas production. He didn't want to talk about that in detail and said, it's a Christmas idea with a twist. These are things that people might not expect from stand-up comedian Brian Regan. David Cross has a podcast called Senses Working Overtime. Cross says, I've started branching off to people I don't know, and for me, the whole way I presented it is I'm just going to have a conversation. It should be similar to I met you at a bar in a strange town I haven't been in and start a conversation with the person next to me. That's how I approach it. Obviously, a bunch of these people, if I'm not fully aware of them, I know at least you're a comic, so we have that to talk about, but I've had a lot of people on the show that I didn't know before. I met them when they walked in the room. I wouldn't be doing the podcast if I didn't enjoy it. It certainly doesn't pay anything. No, really, it doesn't. Maybe it would if I rogued it up a little bit. We need more conspiracy theories. Half-assed conspiracy theories would increase my paycheck. David Spade is taping a special tonight at the Paramount Theater in Denver. Steven Rogers will tape his special. He's got a little bit of Mark Normand in him. Steven has teamed up with Nate Bargatze's Nateland Entertainment. Steven Rogers, the Syracuse-raised comedian, now based in New York City. He'll record his show tonight and tomorrow at the Comedy Fort in Fort Collins, Colorado. WPR spoke to Eugene Merman. They were curious about the origins of the Eugene Merman Comedy Festival. Merman said, I did a weekly show in Brooklyn with my friend Julie Smith-Clem. There was an event that made me joke with her and Mike Birbiglia at the time that I was going to do a Eugene Merman Comedy Festival, but that I wouldn't do it because I wasn't a known comic. It was particularly ludicrous to suggest, but then I thought we should do it because it would be really silly. It was really fun. So sometime we decided to do a second one, and then that grew into doing a decade of these very silly shows. Vulture asked Langston Kerman, hey, you told a story in your special about the day you spent with your friends high on mushrooms at the park. I know you're friends with Sam J., who also has a story in her last special about doing mushrooms with her friends at the park. Are those the same day? Langston said, same day. Sam got really excited about watching the white people dance because they had set up a DJ booth randomly, and then it became this weird war between them and the other people who were trying to have a baby shower, who were very put off by the music, and she was getting very angry at the fact that these white people who had finally found their freedom dancing peacefully in the park were being told by a richer class of people that they needed to shut it down, and that became the inspiration for her story. Then after Sam sat there watching this war happen for an hour and a half, we wandered to the ballpark, and I lost my mind watching a man play softball poorly. It was great. And that's your comedy news for today. If you enjoy the program, tell a friend about it. They might like it too, and I'll see you tomorrow.